I wanted to share with you an excerpt from an 1859 book called 3 Years Among the Comanche. And I can't take credit for this discovery. This is from someone on Reddit who posted a page from this book, but didn't really leave a link, so I kind of chugged it down and had to find out more and had to elaborate on the page that they unveiled. So I can't take credit for it, but I am going to elaborate on it right here because this is amazing. This is one incredible account of what this guy Rolling Thunder tells the narrator Nelson Lee. And it's regarding the Comanches and what they witnessed and the stories that were passed down, because those are the only things left. When there's a force out there destroying every bit of evidence of something, word is the only thing that can stand the test of time, and passing it on, teaching your children. And the Native Americans used to do that for days, telling stories so that the generations would remember, and that the stories were so elaborate, and the patience on everyone was amazing. You don't have to have an ADD cartoon that's like 3 minutes long to capture kids' attention back then. Their attention was just something that came natural, and it was necessary, and they knew it. And this story relayed here is phenomenal. Starting on page 193, and it's about 4 pages, it's absolutely incredible. And so I'm going to pair it with some photos of Comanche and some other just images that kind of work in this way, in a fun, interesting way. But this account is paramount to a lot of the stuff I talk about on this channel. It is what I believe, and what I consider to be one of the only explanations for those ancient buildings, those structures in the Midwest that look like ancient buildings that are melted or blown up or whatever they are, just rotten. They could be anything, any form of plasma or anything could have done that. I have no idea. I'm not claiming to know, but just judging from what I feel and think, mostly this account seems to make sense, that there was some amazing race that had mastered that and had all these places in the hills. And I wouldn't be surprised if the entire Rocky Mountain chain was once a civilization, a massive metropolis beyond anything our sci-fi things can even compare to. So here we go. Take this into consideration, because this just jived with exactly my imagination. So here we go. 193. The week succeeding this tragedy, a party of 10 or 12, including the Rolling Thunder and myself, started on a long journey, its object being to ascertain whether the buffalo droves had changed their feeding grounds before the warriors set out on their annual hunt. In the course of this trip, we crossed a valley, the singular appearance of which has very frequently since been the subject of study and reflection. Not sure what that valley is, but we should find it. On the summit of many of the mountains we passed were broad, level tablelands, destitute of a solitary tree and covered with rank grass. Upon every one of these elevated plains was to be seen a mound, in most instances in the form of a half-circle, resembling the overgrown ruins of an ancient fortress, and plainly the work of human hands. Finally, we descended into a ravine, walled on either side by ragged cliffs, which led us a day's ride to the southwest, when we emerged into a valley about 4 miles wide and 30 long. It was surrounded on all sides by very high mountains, exceedingly bleak and barren. There was not a tree or bush or even a blade of grass to be discovered over the entire surface. I can't read that last sentence, but it says, blank, the face of the valley. It was covered to the average depth of 15 feet, as near as I could judge, with broken pumice stone, a substance precisely similar to the lava of Vesuvius. That it was the result of volcanic eruptions there was no possible doubt, inasmuch as numerous tracks down which it had flowed from the mountain tops were distinctly visible. The Rolling Thunder, in order to convince me of the correctness of a belief universal throughout the Comanche nation, conducted me to the western side of this strange valley, where I saw, with infinite astonishment and surprise, the dilapidated ruins of a large town. In the midst of the falling walls of a great number of buildings, which in some remote age beyond doubt had lined spacious streets, was what appeared to have been a church or cathedral, its walls of cut stone 2 feet thick and in some places 15 feet high included a space measuring 200 feet in length and perhaps 100 in width. The inner surface of the walls in many places was adorned with elaborate carved work, evidently the labor of a master hand, and at the eastern end was a massive stone platform which seemed to have been used as a stage or pulpit. In my surprise at beholding so unexpectedly these evidences of civilization in that wild region, I turned to the Rolling Thunder and asked if he could explain it. This is the legend of the Comanches, as he related it. Innumerable moons ago, a race of white men 10 feet high and far more rich and powerful than any white people now living here inhabited a large range of country, extending from the rising to the setting sun. Their fortifications crowned the summits of the mountains, protecting their populous cities situated in the intervening valleys. They excelled every other nation which has flourished, either before or since, in all manner of cunning handicraft, were brave and warlike, ruling over the land they had wrested from its ancient possessors, with a high and haughty hand. Compared with them, the pale faces of the present day were as pygmies, both in art and arms. They drove the Indians from their homes, putting them to the sword, and occupying the valleys in which their fathers had dwelt before them since the world began. At length, in the height of their power and glory, when they remembered justice and mercy no more, and became proud and lifted up, the Great Spirit descended from above, sweeping them with fire and deluge from the face of the earth. The mounds we had seen on the tablelands were the remnants of their fortresses, and the crumbling ruins that surrounded us all that remained of a mighty city. In like manner, continued the Rolling Thunder, the day will surely come when the present white race which is driving the Indians before it and despoiling them of their inheritance, and which, in the confidence of its strength, has become arrogant and boastful and forgotten God, will be swept from existence. For the Great Spirit is just, and as certainly as the rivers flow downward towards the salt sea, or the sun rises in the morning and sets at night, so certainly will he yet restore the land of their fathers to the red man when the days of his affliction are past. It would, indeed, be difficult to adopt any other hypothesis than the one entertained by the chief. The evidence before me was too clear and palpable to be controverted, that at some period more or less remote, this valley had been inhabited by a people skilled in architecture and evidently possessing in a high degree a knowledge of mechanism and the arts. Whether the Rolling Thunder's account of their destruction is correct, or his belief that their successors will eventually be disposed of in the same summary manner, is orthodox, will admit of argument nevertheless, there is no doubt that in common with all the tribes of the Comanches, he entertains this belief in genuine sincerity. It is this unwavering faith in the future ascendancy of the red man, and the final restoration to him of all the possessions he has lost, which prompts him to perpetual resistance, and which so often led the Rolling Thunder to exclaim, after I had described some marvelous invention, "Wonderful, wonderful are the works of the white man, but the Great Spirit will destroy them all." Wow. And then it says, after leaving the volcanic valley and ascertaining the feeding grounds of the bison, we returned to the village and soon again set forth on the yearly buffalo hunt. But wow. And then so that little 4 pages confirms so much of what we in this community have thought and theorized about a lot of different things. So much that it's ridiculous, and it makes you think, you know, if this is and again, I don't know what's true. I'm not claiming this to be true. I'm just taking this account because it meshes with what I've always thought, really, driving through that area and all different kinds of things. And most people would maybe attribute it to aliens or different things, but I think beings beyond the poles. And I think that something happened at one point, that war that happened between those people that mastered that civilization, mastered that architecture, and the people that we were. You know, maybe us humans are kind of like the robot army of some, not robot, but, you know, the genetically created army for some other species. They could have been just, you know, and then we're just here because they just wanted to battle that out. Maybe they had something, you have no idea. Any type of scenario could play out when you factor this in, that at one point there was a race of 10-foot tall people that were building on top of all those ancient structures that we see. And even before, who preceded them? Who were the originators? If we are just pygmies, who are the gods? Who are those even above us? Who are our masters in some way? And are they looking down at this realm and, you know, were they just like, you guys can have that realm. You helped us win the war, you helped us get rid of them in that area, you guys can have it. And then maybe the people, who knows, maybe the evil people of this world are taking controls from these giants, these monsters that are beyond, not monsters, but these beings that are beyond the poles, and communicating with them in places that are off Google Maps, scratched off, erased from history. All these ancient things, all these civilizations, they have a method for eradicating them from the face of the earth, and you can still see remnants on Google Earth all over the places of outlines of civilizations. Every time you go by all this, and everything out in the west, the whole Rockies, that whole area, all those could potentially be buildings. All these ones that we see in the Middle East that are buildings, and in Petra and other places like that, that similar exact thing happened over here and all over the place and everywhere. And we are in a tiny spot. They don't let us see anything. They barely let us know anything. And hopefully we can change that by exploring more. There's got to be some places left that they missed, or something underground that they missed. It's going to be fun. Bless you all. Let's keep discovering.